a big thank you to Becky and to Simon for taking the time to talk with us today, to address our questions, our concerns, speak to us in an intimate and interactive kind of way. This is very, very special. Everyone, please mute your mics right now. Everyone, please mute your mics before we move forward. Thank you. Like I said, there are currently 95 attendees, sorry, 96 attendees and growing. So we are going to do our best to definitely, get to as many questions as possible. Obviously, we can only do so many. So please be patient. And this will be posted on MeWe Pro for your reference, and you can look back at that and listen to it. And for those Canadians who did not get a chance to join, we are at 100. We are maxed out now. Okay, so I have 4 screens. I'm kind of going to be scrolling through. I'm going to do my very best. If there are going to be hands, please use the reactions or any icon that it will indicate a hand raised in your window. I would love to see it and get to the question if possible. Simon and Becky, welcome to Canada. Welcome to our group. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll hand you quickly over to Simon, but I just want to say I'm really overwhelmed with the number of people who've joined, and I'm pretty much guessing that there's going to be a lot of disappointed people trying to get in this evening. So well done everyone for getting in early, because if it's our experience, people tend to join as well within the first 10 minutes or so, and then an hour later thinking they've got the time wrong. So yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. That's at least 1/10 of all the membership in Canada.
Indeed.
So it's lovely to meet you all. And yeah, I'll hand you over to Simon now.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much indeed. It's very wonderful that you have, supported your coordinator. You've turned up. I will obviously have to take as many questions as I can. It would be wrong to, disappear too early. So thank you very much. Just a quick word about CC. I don't always talk about Canada. I'm very, very sorry. I tend to talk a lot about the US, and there are reasons for that. But of course, there are a couple of countries which are vital. One is Australia and one is Canada. And these are countries which have been through a very difficult time and are facing a very difficult time as well. So both Canada and Australia actually are facing very similar political situations. So I have an extra eye on Canada and Australia. So thank you very much indeed. Now I'm going to let your coordinator call you in. So it is the coordinator's meeting, and I'll work with what he does.
All right, fair enough, Simon. I guess I will start with kind of a general question that a lot of members that aren't even with us right now, but a lot of members did kind of share in their own kind of way. Everyone is wondering what the status of the Cabal is in Canada. How deep are they? What are the connections to Trudeau? What are the connections to the rest of our leaders? What is the Trump impact here in Canada? How is he involved? And what kinds of things can we do as Canadians to keep the Cabal out? Because it seems as right now, Canada is in dark shadow more than ever.
Right. It's not good news. Trudeau is very much part of the wrong side of the tracks. And you remember, it's not that long ago, but it seems a long time ago, when there was an emerging trade war regarding steel and other products between Canada and the US. And that was mainly because Canada was following a Chinese principle, which was to obtain materials from the US as cheaply as possible. And it was a culture that had gone up over the last 20 years. So what that showed us all was that unfortunately Trudeau is not the sort of leader that Canada deserves, but some of the people around him are very good. So some of those who are quite high up in the government are actually fairly independent, and some of them are quite close to the Canadian military. And the Canadian military is very close to the American military. So I actually think that if one or two top people were to step down, Canada would actually come back to middle of the road quite quickly. I remember maybe 5 years ago, some terrible inflation in Canada. Prices of your gallon of milk or bacon, for a period of time, those prices were very high. And of course, like I said to you, I do watch Canada quite closely. So the situation is that the Cabal has an investment in Canada precisely because Canada is on the border of the United States. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon. Mason, your question for Simon. Mason, are you there? Nope. Okay, not Mason. Louise.
Yes, I'm there. I have a question for Simon. Hi, Simon. So happy to speak to you. Actually, are you aware of some kind of law who says, I read that a while ago, and actually what it says is, if there's a coup, like a coup d'etat in Ontario or in Quebec, what I read says then the state has priority and they can get in on Ontario and Quebec. And I couldn't find the article today.
The difficulty in Canada is not just because there's an English and a French speaking. The difficulty is that the Queen of England never gave up her control over Canada as an entire entity. And no politician in recent times has been prepared to have another referendum or try and, remove Canada away from that old Commonwealth vision. Okay. Because whatever is said publicly, privately, the Queen still is very influential. Now, what is a different mix here is that both President Trump and Queen Elizabeth II are very close. They actually work very closely together. That is because Trump understands that he needs the Queen because her reach goes right across the planet. So if Trump involves the Queen in anything, then whatever that project is or whatever is involved will not be taken down by the Cabal because the Queen has a hand in it. Now, in terms of the states of Canada, it would be wrong to view provinces as separate entities, regardless of what the local law says. At the highest level, it is seen as one country. Therefore, the only way there would be some form of takeover or some sort of removing from the union, shall we say, would be literally a revolution. And I don't believe that Canadians want that. So I understand and I am aware of what you're saying to me, but I just don't see anything on those lines ever developing. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Simon. Okay, I'm just scanning through here, looking for hands being raised, making sure I don't miss anyone. Jacques.
Yep, I will have a question for Simon. So, hi everyone. We've seen pictures recently, Simon, about Chinese troops in BC and also on the border of Maine and Quebec. I've read after that, that those pictures might have been taken in 2018. So, are you aware of any Chinese troops in Canada and movements also from the US near the Quebec and Maine border?
Yes. There certainly were Chinese troops in 2018. In fact, ever since President Trump was elected, the Chinese have, used their right to come across, which they have actually a right to come up to the border. The point is that when Hunter Biden's laptop was discovered, and the White House was then able to trace it back to the Chinese Communist Party, that's where the laptop originated from, the Chinese then became somewhat concerned that a lot of the information on that laptop was known to the White House. And so there are troop movements from both sides. That's not being fully reported in the media, but what I can let you know is that the Chinese troops, there's not that many. There's probably about between maybe 17 and 20,000. Some people put it at 25. I think that's a little high. That's purely there to put pressure on Trudeau and through him pressure on Trump. But America has been moving US troops into Canada, working alongside Canadian Special Forces. And so there is what we would call a Cold War buildup, just as there is in India now. You may be aware that the United States has provided secret spy satellite technology to India because Chinese troops have moved up to the border with India in exactly the same way. And again, this is a threat because of Hunter Biden's laptop. So China is basically threatening that if the United States is to prosecute the Bidens, which is going to happen, it mustn't bring the Chinese Communist Party into the frame. That's what this is all about. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jacques. Thank you, Simon, for that. Couple questions that have been posted in some emails and on the chat here. Simon, people would like to know about the quarantine camp rollout here in Canada. Why is that happening, if that is happening? And the Great Reset rollout here in Canada.
Right. Well, there's two very big questions. There is a movement to the equivalent of FEMA camps in the US. Canada, although it has a strong French culture, basically models itself on the United States. As long as President Trump remains in the White House, I can absolutely categorically tell you there will be no detention camps in Canada. That's just not going to happen. But there is a movement amongst a group of elite people to set up these camps, the equivalent of the FEMA camps. That's the first answer there. The second answer is more complicated because the Canadians are closely connected to Great Britain. It's not fully understood this, but the way that the money is organized in Canada is much comes under the control of Her Majesty the Queen in a way that the United States does not. So any type of financial change or reset would not have the freedom as it would say in America or any other country. There is a change coming, but I'm not going to be one of these people that there's a lot of people at the moment on the alternative news saying that it's going to be wonderful, there's going to be giveaways of money, this big change, etc. That's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that it's being got ready for a big change. Everything is on hold to see who wins the American election. Because if Trump is re-elected and has a strong mandate, there will be a change from the system that we understand to a quantum banking system. In the old days, that was called reset. We don't use that word anymore. It's more of a transition phase. That's the word I would use. So literally right across the planet, everything is on hold to see who wins the election. So both of those are very, very topical questions, and both really we're waiting to see who wins the election.
Thank you so much, Simon. I'm going to throw in an extra one with that. I'm assuming vaccines are under that umbrella as well.
Yes, as long as Trump's in power, vaccines will not be mandatory. Trump has already said that he'll offer vaccines, but it will be voluntary basis only. There are a number of countries which are trying to test the water to see if they can force vaccination. And unfortunately, Canada, there are a couple of people in Canada who specifically want to force vaccination. But again, if Trump is president, that's unlikely to happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Andrea, you have a question.
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. So what if Trump doesn't win? What happens?
Okay, I'll answer that question. If he doesn't win, then the development of humanity is probably put back about 25 years. On the positive side, he's not going to lose. If by some crazy way Biden was to win at the ballot box, he will not win at the Supreme Court. What is on that laptop is so damning. I don't know if you know, but the FBI just announced today that they are opening a criminal investigation into the Bidens. But they won't take any action till after the election, obviously. The laptop is so damning that the Supreme Court will never have Biden as the president, and the United States military will never have him as the commander-in-chief. So my projection into the short-term future is I see no route way that would allow Biden to come in. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Simon, we have a few questions here that came in through emails regarding souls. So just switching gears for one moment, I'm going to throw some questions out here. Tell me to stop. What does it mean to be a multi-soul? What are you able to incarnate in multiple bodies on Earth at the same time? How many individuals have a soul that is made up of 3 different parts? And when these souls were created, what was their purpose?
Okay, I'll try and remember those.
We can go one by one, no worries. What does it mean to be a multi-soul?
Yeah, okay, probably. A human creature, and we are all human creatures because we are on Earth and we have a human body. Our physical form means that we have chosen to be in human form. The soul that inhabits the body dictates the way we think to a large extent. It dictates our values and dictates our progress towards our learning goal. So if you have, for instance, a Palladian soul or an Arcturian soul, you're not an Earth human, but you have a human type soul. So there's a strong connection between the human body and the soul. But if you have a part of that soul which is not connected to humanity in an obvious way, then that's where some of the issues can evolve from. Source created beings with one soul, but higher intellects who are prepared to break universal law can alter the incarnation pattern of individuals, and through many thousands or millions of years, an individual can incorporate elements from other groups within it. So, 10 years ago, I went public and, explained my soul is made up of 3 parts. It's not as unique as you might think. There are a number of people with more than one part of their soul. But what you have to do is to look at those elements and understand why that element was placed within that body. So, for instance, the mantid part, I have 1/3 mantid. That is the part that was a very good chess player. I have 1/3 which is a human, and that's the one that has the emotions and the feelings. And I have 1/3 which is reptilian, which is the one that gave me so much problems in my early days. But all of those aspects are there to learn and to move through and on a journey. So it's not unique. I'm not unique. There are a few people on the planet with 3 parts. There are quite a few with 2 parts, but the vast majority have 1 part. Okay, what was the rest of the question, Philip?
Are you able to incarnate in multiple bodies on Earth at the same time?
No, but what you can do, and we're hoping that CERN actually can come up with the answer for us, there are parallel universes, and we're hoping that in the next week CERN can actually prove to regular science that parallel universes do exist, and that's what the experiment they're undertaking at the moment. We've always known there are parallel universes, and it is fairly well understood that you can exist not on the Earth so much in different aspects, but in parallel universes. And that's what déjà vu is. Déjà vu is you in another place have had that experience before, but not on this Earth, in this time frame. Okay, what's the next question?
Raymond, you're up.
Hi, Simon and Becky. Welcome to Canada. I just wrote down the question here. I'd like to know if there's any merit to Article 61 of the Magna Carta and common law movement that's going on in Canada, Australia, UK, Commonwealth countries.
There is merit to it. It's stronger in some countries than others. And unfortunately, you'd imagine that it would be quite strong in Britain. It's not, because the way that it's understood in Britain is that the common law is a law that comes under the courts. So in Britain, it's understood that the common law is subservient to maritime law, to the law that we have in Britain. But in other countries, it's not as well understood, and it is possible to win in the official courts citing the right within common law. You couldn't do it in Britain very easily, but you can do it in other countries. The problem with the Magna Carta was that it's been superseded, and it's now seen more as some sort of historical document rather than enshrinement in law. So yeah, there has strong movement in many countries to try to bring this to the fore, but just as the royal family in Britain has stepped back from government, and that vacuum has been filled by a prime minister and by the courts, so the Magna Carta and the understanding of common law in Great Britain isn't worth very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Simon, for that. Okay, next up, we have David S. David, you're on.
Thanks, Philip, and thank you, Simon, for all that you're doing. Your work for humanity, amazing. Thank you, Philip, for all you're doing with organizing this. This is not easy, and thank you all for these wonderful questions. My question is around TDS, or we may know that as Trump Derangement Syndrome, I don't like this particular term, but people are familiar with it. I had a bit of a download yesterday because I was just curious about people. I love observing stuff. I was curious about people's reactions to negative reactions to Donald Trump, or to anyone, in fact, but specifically to Trump. And it's become increasingly interesting to me to see that the majority of people that I communicate with, thousands every month, but the portion that don't like Trump don't just not like him, they seem to have a visceral or an emotional reaction to him. And it just got me to thinking yesterday, and I got kind of a download on it. And I was thinking that, is there a possibility where there have been, we know how many abductions have been going on the planet for many, many years by Greys and others, and positive and negative. Have there been esoteric implants put into people that the esoteric side of the deep state have parallel with the MSM to trigger people's reactions about Trump specifically?
Question. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's actually not been done by cell towers or masts. It's actually a frequency that's been encoded into certain news broadcasts and certain adverts. In other words, they are broadcasting a frequency within a video that for many people just doesn't do anything, but for some it acts within the chipping. It doesn't have to be a physical chip within that person. It can be an etheric or an energy chip. And it's like what it does to the person. It's like they get a thorn in their finger, and it nags, and it's like that. So just a picture of Trump, just his face, is now programmed for them, so that brings a reaction. So his name, his face, or his voice, even if they don't listen to anything that's being said, just a few words, and that activates it. So you're absolutely right. That's not widely known even within the spiritual movement. They have done that for a number of people, but the last 2 years, when it became obvious that their 3D way of getting rid of him through impeachment and all the rest of it, that wasn't going to work. So they then used these methods, and they can't do it through cell towers because obviously the president has a lot of technical experts. It was being done through what we call the Black Knight or the Dark Knight satellites, but the good guys took them down about a year ago. And so what they're doing is they're using their friends in the media to encode through that. So you could put 100 people in a room and you could show them, I don't know, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, President Trump, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler. You could do all that, and then you could check the records, and you would get higher spikes with Trump than you would with Adolf Hitler because of that. I hope that helps.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Wow. Very, very fascinating. Excellent question. Excellent answer. Thank you so much. Moving to Atlantic Canada, we have a fun question. Does the Shag Harbor UFO incident of the 1960s here in Nova Scotia have any significance in the deep state plan, and was the Earth satellite station in Mill Village, Nova Scotia, involved in that incident?
Yeah, I am aware of that. There was also a guy on a boat. I think he was fishing at the time, and he was one of the guys that gave a more balanced view that was since suppressed. But there was a guy on a boat that I can't remember which river or lake it was. What I can tell you is that it was part of an operation to test the community. Often can't say the deep state, it can sometimes be just the military, will work with non-human entities to trial out experiences within a secure location, and they will actually look at the type of people, what we call in Great Britain the social economic standing. They'll look to see how they are affected by it. It's not experiments in terms of being put on a gurney and wheeled around. It's just literally much more open experiments in terms of how do they react, how do they, when we do communicate with them, how do they act on that. So these are very few and far between, because there's a huge security risk to, I suppose, the ordinary public or the decent media getting hold of it and running with it. But I can tell you that that was genuine, and it was a joint operation between a off-planet group and I believe the military, but I can't be exactly sure on that. So it was genuine. There was a guy on a boat, and I say he was the one guy that gave a very realistic and truthful experience of what he saw, but that was suppressed because his narrative did not fit in with the narrative that officially had come out. Okay.
Thank you, Simon, for that answer. And thank you for the question. Okay, we're going to go to a question in the chat here. Who in Canadian government or CSIS should be trusted with information or direct evidence that can expose the cabal and bring to light how CSIS operates drugs, etc.?
Nobody until the top tier is removed. You have a very, very good history of your Ministry of Defence being quite open and truthful. And that is because anybody who takes the position of a defence minister has to work very closely with the military. So if the time came when you were looking to choose somebody, you would choose the civilian politician who was closely connected to the military, simply because that individual would need protecting. And if he or she had a good relationship with the military as a politician, that would be the person you would choose. You wouldn't go to your education or anyone else, because they wouldn't have the backing to protect it.
I'm smiling because Jock in the chat wrote down Paul Hillier. I don't know if, I'm sure all of us are familiar with that name. Excellent. Now we are going to hear from, let me, if I can pronounce this properly, Marilee. Marilee, are you there? Marilee? No? Okay. We will move on to a question about, Simon, do you have any more details about old alien connections in the, I'm going to see if I can pronounce this properly, Busegi Mountains in Romania? Thank you. Thank you.
When the old Russian Soviet communist bloc fell, that area was one of the last to do so, because Ceausescu was the leader at that time, and he was trying to negotiate his survival or freedom with the American president at that time. He was trying to do a deal on the technology that was there. Originally, it had come up from American spy satellites who were following up on a civilian satellite that had been doing ground penetration radar, looking for minerals, just wealth, and had come up with some anomalies. And so, of course, the Americans were in on that very quickly. They didn't make a deal, and of course, Ceausescu was removed. The mountains are quite interesting because there are 3 tunnels, one tunnel up to the American region, one tunnel to Tibet, and one tunnel to the Great Pyramid at Giza. That's what we know of. The beings that created that were possibly some form of hybridized form, but we today would call them giants. They were certainly much larger than we are. The technology in that is related to, but separate to, the technology in Antarctica. So the Antarctica technology is older and more difficult, but the technology that we're referring to in the mountains, some of it had been stripped out and removed, but that which remained was very, very advanced. And it was very, very difficult to was easier to understand. In other words, psychics operate, human psychics or human type psychics operating in the Chaquequí Mountains are having more success. And also because it's not defended by living creatures. There are automated defenses in that region, whereas in Antarctica, there are living creatures defending it. So it's at the moment guarded by the national troops. And then when you get into the location, it's a combination of American and national troops. And then I'm not sure the very lowest or the most secure areas, whether that's a mixture again, or whether it's just American troops. But certainly, you know, the country itself does have quite a large stake in it. When the deal was done, the Americans didn't just go in and take it. They did it in partnership with the military there. So I hope that helps.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for the question. Okay, we're going to try Mara Lee again. Mara Lee.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't unmute fast enough. Thank you, Simon and Becky. Very much appreciated. My question is in regards to the previous question about the East Coast of Canada. I'm an energy worker, and I lived in the country for many years and was working with an atlas and would be given points on the planet to bring balance to. And there was a particular time when I was doing under earth work where there was an opening of space just east of our East Coast, and it completely opened, and I saw a ship go down deep, and then the waters closed. About a year later, I saw a similar vision off the coast of New York, going down and closing. I'm wondering if there is under earth support going on now.
Surprisingly enough, that there are a number of these, and then in the United Kingdom or Great Britain, there is one that exists between the Welsh coast and Ireland. If you're not sure where Wales is, but you're probably fairly familiar with where Ireland is, and that's called the Irish Ocean. And indeed, there is something there. And what tends to happen is that it's a portal which somehow, I don't understand how it works, but somehow means that the craft is able to go down a tunnel through the sea, but there is indeed an opening and an underground facility now on this under the seabed. Now, the ones in the Irish Sea were run by Orion Greys. So then somewhat negative, but that doesn't mean they all are. And I think that a very supportive human group has actually taken over one of those. I mean, in the Caribbean, we had a bit of a set to 2 or 3 years ago with the Russians and the American navies working together to try to flush out something. But certainly there is, to my knowledge, one beneficial alien group which is utilizing the seabed or underneath the seabed. Now, whether that's the same one that you're referring to, I honestly don't know, but it's not surprising, simply because as humanity has developed, these beings have got to find cleverer and cleverer ways not to be observed. And the days are gone where they could hide under the earth because they're detected, so they move to the oceans. And that's the final place, because there are some parts that have never been surveyed, and I think there's still quite a lot to be found. Okay,
thank you.
Thank you, Mara Lee, and thank you, Simon, for that. Simon, very quickly, Anna would like to know, is Trudeau a double, and is the original under house arrest?
Not to my knowledge, that is the real man there, but as in all cases with people who are working or supporting Cabal values, there is a clone. I'm not suggesting that Trudeau is a clone, but I'm suggesting that a clone is ready for him. So if something were to happen that they didn't want, they could quickly wheel somebody out. You see, they use holograph technology for short short spells. And we saw that recently when the Pope came out to the window and then they didn't get it quite right. Instead of him walking back into his room, he sort of vanished. So what they can do is they can use holograph for short periods of time, but for long periods of time, they have to use clones, but you still can't put a clone into a question and answer session because they can't process fast enough. Clones are great for walking from one room to another. Clones are great for photo opportunities, but getting into limousines, but they can't sit and hold in-depth conversations, so they're limited. So no, what you've got is a regular guy who has unfortunately gone off the track. Anybody who is involved in banking or lawyers' work or anything like that will, on his way up to the top of the pyramid, will have been got at. And Trudeau was got at just like so many others. Many of us look on Trudeau as a victim, but I look on him as a man who's very weak, very weak. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Chris, you are up.
Hi, Simon and Becky. Thanks, Phil. I was wondering, just seeing all of these crazy pandemic measures unfolding in Canada, do you have any sense what it'll take for them to actually stop? Because we're having a second wave hitting us here in Quebec and Ontario. And I mean, it's lightening up in Ontario, but it's tightening still further in Quebec. I live on the border between the two provinces, so I am acutely aware of sort of the dynamic in both. And I was wondering what it's going to take for us to actually get back to some sort of life that we want to have without having a sort of this sword hanging over us that if we invite the wrong person into our house, we're going to be fined potentially $1,000. And this encouragement to spy on your neighbors and rat them out. It's just such a messed up experience. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to bring us hope and wake up.
Thank you. The very rules that you've just given me are proof, evidence that the people at the very top are not there for the right reasons, because they're producing rules and regulations which are designed to create fear rather than find a way out of the problem. Not everybody believes there's a virus. Many people think that there's no virus. I've always believed there's a virus because American intelligence and another source both gave me the explanation as to how the virus was released and what its intention was and who was behind it. And so it now begins to look nice and interesting, doesn't it, that the laptop that Hunter Biden has, which is given to him by the Chinese Communist Party, coincides quite strongly with the fact that the virus originated from China. And of course, as I've said before, the virus was never supposed to be released in China. It was supposed to be released in New York. And that's what went wrong from their operation. It was released unintentionally in China. So the Chinese got their own medicine. As a security agent said to me, isn't it funny how God gets back at those people who wish to bring harm on good people? So while you've got somebody who is very strongly connected to China, and Trudeau is, you shouldn't expect a lessening of that. The difficulty is that it's not the number of new infections. What we should be really looking at is the number of hospitalizations and the number of deaths, because the number of hospitalizations and deaths proportionately is quite small. The proportion of those infected shows that it's a very, very small amount. I was saying to Becky only today, what do these people expect to gain? Because, give it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, doesn't matter how long. At some point, they've got to say, oh, the emergency's over, we go back to normal. So what have they gained? What did they actually gain? And the point is that these politicians, your government and my government, don't have that roadmap. They're only acting on what they've been told to do. So they don't have a game plan. They don't have an idea about what's happening. You know, these are the questions that we would ask. So you lock a country up, you get everyone wearing masks, and then at some point, you've got to let them all out again. What actually have you done? I'm talking about from the Cabal's point of view. How does that benefit the Cabal? Because humanity is really strong and is really resistant and will bounce back. So the only thing they can be doing is literally attempting some form of world takeover, literally world takeover. Now, if Trump is re-elected, all of their plans go completely out the window, totally. And so what will happen is you'll find these lockdowns just being withdrawn and going back to the way it was maybe you know, during the time we had this pandemic, but without all the heavy lockdowns. You know, in Australia, people being told to drive when they're in a motor car on their own, having to wear a mask. And what is the point of that? Why wear a mask in a motor car when you're on your own? So you can see the individuals running countries, who their bosses are, by the way they're interpreting their laws and lockdowns. So you're not going to come out of this easily, because your government is quite strongly connected to China. But if Trump is re-elected, your come out period is much quicker and much easier. And what I can tell you is there are a number of leaders who are doing what Trudeau's doing, and they will never be re-elected. They will never be re-elected, because the damage and harm they've brought to families through their badly thought out policies will destroy them politically for a generation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. All right, David, if you don't speak, that hand is going to fall off, and we don't want that. So please ask the question. There are plenty to go, but yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Thanks, Philip. Yeah, I lost feeling 10 minutes ago, don't worry. No, great answers, amazing questions. Quick one, we had Magenta on the show a couple of weeks ago. She talked about from the 9, the Robin Hood, and this is about a timeline shift or split or merge or phase in, if you want to call it that. But the new Earth frequencies. And because I asked her, well, you know, what do you think the new Earth will look like? Because I was experiencing things when I was in America recently where my partner and I were physically invisible to people, and just some really, really cool but weird and amazing stuff. So what do you think the Robin Hood thing she was talking about was sort of some of the old third density paradigms and structures and energies just won't necessarily be as visible or as there for people who are choosing a higher frequency. But what do you see this timeline shift or even split as looking like physically on the ground for us here?
It's been happening for about 15 years. They hushed it up. In America, there were a whole spate of auto crashes, and they couldn't understand it because these cars had come off the road and the highway was just straight. It was just straight with no bends and no turns. And what we're seeing now is people who, in this reality, are suddenly seeing through into another reality and getting a terrible shock. And then those people who are 3D fixed literally see people vanish in front of their eyes, and cars vanish and then coming back. I have people who are seeing strange cities. People are seeing a world that they don't really understand. Now, that's occurring, and it's not about X is better than Y. It's that individuals are at the point of their many, many incarnations where they are ready at an early stage to begin to take that movement. This is part of the choice. And there will be a sizable group of people who don't go anywhere this time around. And please don't be upset or sad, because that is exactly what's meant to happen. That is the choice of it. But there was on the 31st of December 2012, that tipping point where we got through to a position we'd never got through before, which meant that the energy transference was unstoppable. And what the Cabal have tried to do is everything they can to slow up that transference. But so you should expect more deja vu. You should expect, and I talked about one where, you know, I was walking, just going down the stairs on a house, and then the board, I don't know what you guys would call it, we'd just call it a stair. But for me, it just vanished. And I thought it was like a 1,000-foot or a 1,000-yard meter drop, and I was jumping over it. When I looked back, it was just an ordinary stair. So you will all spiritual people over the coming months now will begin to experience strange happenings, which, yeah, you might just shake your head and think that was a bit strange, but you are going to have these almost unexplainable actions, and it'll only be a split second. For some people, it's longer, but it is the fact that we are diverging. Those of us who have followed a spiritual path, even if you woke up yesterday, you were always destined to do this. And those who are yet to wake up, but that is going to happen, and there will be a complete division between humanity that is ready for the fifth, and we're not going to hang about in the fourth very much, but ready for the fifth, where time is different. And that's the problem, because when you go from the third to the fourth, the concept of our understanding of time for our brains doesn't work. And so we find it very difficult with the concept or the paradigm that we have to understand what we're seeing, because time does not operate in the way that we have been taught it. So that yet has to be understood. So when individuals understand the concept of a reoccurring time, and I know that it's easily shown as a figure of 8, but actually, truthfully, time-space is a corkscrew or a circle that's continually joined, actually, and you can be at any point of that. So yes, it's not unique. It's happening all over the planet, and it's incredibly exciting, but don't expect, you know, your local newspaper to cover it.
Thank you, Simon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for that. We have so many more questions. We don't have a lot of time left. We're going to see what we can do to get through them. Sharon, you are up now.
Oh, thanks. Simon, can someone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Simon, I was wondering about the people wearing masks. There are people that we all know about the people wearing masks. Are they also targeted by this technology with the Trump syndrome? Or is it just the fear?
No,
okay.
It's not the Trump syndrome at all. It is a fear of the unknown. Those people who never challenged the reality of their world, if you put them in a dark room and tell them that there's an octopus sitting in the corner, and if you move, it's going to kill you, they won't move. They'll stay there forever. But for a spiritual person, you'll think, well, I'm not having this. I'm going to put the light on. I'm going to have a look. And so when you give somebody a mask, it makes them feel better. It makes them feel protected and comfortable. It's like a child who hears a strange noise and pulls the blankets or the covers over their head. And it's playing on that fear that the primitive human has, which goes right back to our days when we were, not evolved in the way we are now. And that is something that divides humanity. Those who are fearful and those who are not. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sharon and Simon. Simon, very quickly from Mina, we have, after the election, all countries will claim their sovereignty. So will Canada and the US be one country, like North America, or still be separate sovereign nations?
Not while Trudeau's there. If a wedge can be driven between China and the rest of the world, then you will find Canada and America forming a friendship that is second to none. Absolutely second to none. At the moment, the only friendship you've got is the military in Canada and the military in America. The politicians do not get on at all. But if China can be ostracized, if it can be pushed away, then there'll be a very big movement in Canada to throw itself much closer with America. And then internally, you have to work out how the French-speaking part and the English-speaking part make that judgment. But that would be for Canadians to sort out. But yeah, there's a lot of people at the top who have to disappear before this renaissance can come about.
Thank you very much for that. Next, we have Keith asking, do we have any idea when food shortages may come to Canada? And if so, where will it occur first?
January. You should expect them in January. You don't think about provinces, think about big cities. That's simply as that, big cities. We did a test, I would say we, I mean the defence people in Britain did a test, and they found that in London, within 3 hours of a national emergency, there would not be one loaf of bread left on any store shelf in London. 3 hours. So I don't think you guys would be much different from that. So you're looking at food shortages, not immediately, but later on. That's the first spike of food shortages. The second spike of food shortages is where during the virus lockdown, the amount of crops have not been grown or planted or harvested. So you should also see that. Do not expect a world shortage. There's not going to be a disaster, famine, but you will find particular products or particular food stores or stocks very low, and then a week later they come back. But the other thing, that whatever that might be that was plentiful the week before, that disappears. So, yes, by all means, don't feel bad about putting some food away. Start preparing. You can produce 2 to 4 weeks worth of, food that won't go off. I think that's a very sensible thing to do. You don't want to do it for months and months. We're not a prepper organization, but be sensible and put away things that we can expect it. I try and get on with as many people as I can, and we have a great supermarket delivery guy who delivers, and he tells me what they've been told, and they've been told in Great Britain 4 to 5 weeks expect food shortages in Britain. So all the supermarkets already know, because they've been told to stockpile. So if Britain is 4 to 5 weeks, again, I can't think you guys would be too far behind that. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon. Rolling right along, we are going to Trout Lake and visit one of our favorites, Roland, and he has something very, very interesting to show you. Roland, you are up.
Okay. Hello, Simon. I don't know whether you saw the videos about the moon pictures what I take. When I take moon pictures and watch them later with the video running in the background, I have those icons on the screen. I can zoom in really details. Even with the sun, with other background, it happens. And where is it now? When I take video clips from the sun, that's pretty much it. So what is your view on it?
Hello, hello. We can't hear. The sound all cut out just then. We saw the pictures, but then we didn't hear the question.
What he thinks about the moon pictures.
Right, thank you. The internet or at least I think when you were putting that on, it probably was just too much for the bandwidth, and we did lose connection a little bit. I have been shown something like that before. The difficulty we have is that it could be what you're seeing very genuine, and it could be something that's been artificially placed there. What I mean is that about 25 years ago, an amateur astronomer was able to photograph what appeared to be craft or ships, almost like what we would call schematic drawings, which were not showing up in the physical, but were showing up almost as if light were reflecting off parts of them. Now, what you've got there is very similar to that. The difficulty that we have is there's also what we call the matrix. And that's one of the reasons the guys made those films back in the year 2000 plus, because the matrix has a network which almost of electrodes, for want of a better word, or node points, which when stimulated creates a reality. The third point is that there are individuals who can project fakery onto, if you've got a telescope and you're taking pictures, they can project onto, a bit like Project Bluebeam, onto the space, and you'll get stuff which appears to be genuine that isn't. Now, from the pictures you've shown me, I can't tell you whether those are craft, whether they are matrix elements, or whether that's fakery projected by Project Bluebeam. But if you could email them to me, because I haven't seen them, if you can email it, then I can have a look at that properly.
Yeah, that happened since Moon Eclipse 2015. I took over 110,000 pictures so far. I had a channeling about it. They come from the 9th and 10th dimension energies.
Okay. Well, that would imply it's craft. That would imply craft. Remember that if you take something from the 9th or 10th dimension and bring it into our reality, it doesn't hold the same physical response to light or frequency or energy. It is basically can only be seen by psychic energy, because an ordinary light frequency can't detect it. Such a thing won't show up on radar. It won't even show up on infrared, because it's operating at a frequency closer to source, which is a much more pure or powerful energy. So please, please, Roland, send me those pictures. I have seen something like it some years ago, but that's only the second time that I've ever seen them.
Yeah, Phil sent you something.
Yeah,
I sent you again, or Phil.
Becky has those links and all the pictures. You can have a gander in an email that we talked about. So you have them, no worries. Peruse them when you can. Okay, Simon, it is we're just over an hour. I'm not too sure how you are feeling. It is there's lots of energies going on right now. So how many more questions do you have in you?
I'll do another half an hour, because it would be wrong to go now. Half an hour.
Okay, you're amazing. Okay, thank you. Jocelyn, you've been patient. You are next.
Hi, can you hear me? Wow. Thank you, Simon and Rebecca and Phil, for organizing this. My question is about the children. My sister's daughter has 3 kids, and the little boy is 4. And he has been so disturbed for several years now. They were in Alberta for a bit, and then they came back to Nova Scotia. He's so terrified all the time, he can't sleep. And so there's orbs in the house. They've been captured on the baby monitor. And just recently, within a couple of days ago, he was sleeping at his nanny's, which was my sister. And there's a painting in the bedroom. So he was sleeping with her. And it's actually a paint by number that my mother did of my sister, which would be his grandmother, quite a few years ago. And he says, Nanny, he said, you know, when I look at that picture, it talks to me. And she says, what do you mean it talks to you? And he says, well, I don't hear any words, but I see the mouth moving. So can you give me any insight? Is this child being attacked by entities, or it's just so heartbreaking? Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Right, okay, we just had a problem with the right button. Just close that.
I'll just close this.
Just close it. Do you have that painting by numbers picture that you can hold up to the camera now to show me?
I'm sorry, no, it would be at my, it's at my sister's.
Okay, well, would you like at some point to take a photo of it, digital photo, and then email that, give it to Philip, and he'll send it across to Becky? Let me have a look at that picture. How old is this boy?
4.
And have you seen any of the other pictures or drawings that he's done himself?
No, but this would have been a paint by number of his grandmother, right, when she was young.
No, I understand that. Yeah. Have you seen any pictures or drawings that he has done over the last few weeks himself?
No, I haven't, but I can imagine that there would be some. Okay,
well, young children express themselves through drawing much more than they do through the word. So what I would particularly be interested in is a selection of those drawings or pictures. So if you can take some pictures, but obviously we've got to have the permission of the mother. We can't be doing anything without mum's or dad's permission. But if they agree to that, then let me have a look at those pictures. Let me understand them. We can have a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And thank you, Simon, for that. Okay, just going to fill the question that's in the chat here. There is a large energy wave from Tina, sorry. There's a large energy wave coming which will affect our frequency. I hear it may cause strokes and heart attacks. How do we protect those who are older or have poor health?
It's not going to cause strokes or heart attacks. That's disinformation. What it will do is cause people to have insomnia, tingling in their fingers, loss of memory, lethargy, but that will be a short-term thing. There is a very massive wave coming. It's part of the ascension process. It's perfectly normal. It's not an EMP or a solar flare. It is something much different to that. It is not going to cause problems. If somebody has a pacemaker or some electrical assistance, then my advice is that person should not undertake any physical activity during that energy wave. So they should just literally have a vacation. But if you don't have, even if you're an old person and you don't have electrical assistance to your heart or your system, please don't worry about it. This is a message that's been put around by people who don't fully understand. Source will never, ever create something that is detrimental to humanity. Never. Because Source created us. Source is not going to kill us off with a cure. So the energy coming will only affect those living people who have electrical assistance to keep their biological body alive. And so if you follow my instructions, which is if your grandparents or people, get them the hell to take it easy. Tell them to take it easy and sit down and
Excellent. A couple mentions in the group here, Simon, about when that's happening. December 21st?
Yes, Becky was just whispering to me because her dad has one, and
Yeah.
she said to me, when is this happening? When is this happening? And I said, calm down, it's not until December. I would put anybody on, vacation 20, 21, 22. 20, 21, 22 of December.
So over the solstice, winter solstice.
Simply because I use my finger, the energy isn't like this. It isn't like this, boom. It's like this. The reason it's not like this is because it would kill us all. It would. So it's not going to happen. It ramps up like this, and then it tails off like that. So you want to be on the vacation period just before it comes up, and then you come back to work as it were, just as it comes down. 20, 21, 22. And as Becky says, the solstice period, that's why it's there. Okay.
The classic bell curve, absolutely. Elizabeth, you are on with Simon.
Hi, sorry, I just had a bunch of kids walk in the house. So if you hear any background noise, that's them. So I just have a quick question. So I have noticed time has been much quicker. Oh, first off, thank you so much for everything that you guys do, and everyone on the call too. I've noticed time sped up quite a lot, and there was actually a couple of days, about a couple of weeks ago, it was markedly short days. Like it was almost like the day was 4 hours, and I noticed it. Several of my friends noticed it, and different groups I'm on, people have made comments about it. And during that time, oh, hi, I'm just on a call, so I'll have to talk to you later. Okay, bye, sorry. So maybe you could comment on any ideas that you have regarding why that might be. And one of the things that I did notice was from one of the sources I follow, is that there seems to be some sort of light force operations on those days. So that might be something that contributes to that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to come at it from a different angle. Let me throw a question back to you. Your friends who, some of your friends who've been aware of this, are they around about the same age as you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's right. There's a reason for that. Is that certain age ranges on the planet now are stepping up to another element. So it isn't that time's got faster, it's that you now have moved, your age ranges have moved, and you're now aware of it. So different age ranges were aware of it 2-3 years ago. Again, it doesn't mean somebody's better than somebody else. It's not about that. It's that your age range, your development range is now sensitive to the speed. Time on this reality, we're about 3.5 from a dimensions. We're not third anymore, we're about 3.5. The way time is working is it's affecting just what you've described, and Becky was, having a chat with me. All right, forget what you're taught about gravity, all right? Forget it. You're taught that the Earth spins and that centrifugal force creates gravity. That's BS. It's light. It's light hitting an oxygen-based planet. And what you'll find, and you can all do this, is that you can start lifting objects. Doesn't matter what it is, cell phone, doesn't matter what it is. And some occasions you're going to lift an object and it's going to be twice as heavy as it should be. And you will know an object like a cell phone, and you'll know what that weighs or anything, and you'll think it's really heavy, really heavy. And if you were to hand it to someone else and say, this is really heavy, and they hold it and say, no, that's perfectly normal. It's because they haven't got to that position of development. Because what's happening is that time and space are altering as we move from the third to the fourth to the fifth. And so here's 0 and here's 12. And this is your day. You get up here, you go to sleep here. This is your day, okay? So the amount of work and jobs you have to do is by and large exactly the same between those two. But your maneuver time is like that now. And you are trying to do all the same jobs in that same time span. And that's why so many spiritual people are saying, I haven't got time. Well, I haven't got the time. I'm not getting it done. What's going on here? But not only is time being altered, but space is being altered. And so our relationship to other objects is changing. So what you're describing is you are now going through this phase of becoming aware or cognizant of the changes, how they're affecting you, because they also affect our body. Our physical body needs time to catch up. The soul in your body is, come on, come on, come on, come on, and your body is lagging behind. And so we often have these difficult times where we feel like we've been up Mount Everest. So what you're describing is positive, it's not negative, but unfortunately there are people who don't have the experience, and they are saying that there's this light wave or there's this energy wave. No, it's not. This is different. What you're talking about is your understanding of time and space and the paradigm of a third dimensional world giving way to higher realms. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the question. Thank you, Simon, for the answer. Simon, very, very quickly, we have a quick question. Is Simon opening his bookings in the next little while?
Yes, and tomorrow the podcast goes out. Did I mention it in the podcast?
Yes, you have. Yeah.
So I'll turn that off. So the podcast comes out tomorrow, and I did mention in the podcast that we are opening the bookings. So the next couple of weeks, the books will be open. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you. Deb, it is amazing to see you. You are on with Simon.
Thanks, Philip. Hi. Hi, Simon and Becky. I would like to ask a question about something that one of the anomalous things that used to happen when I was a child. And this one's really peculiar. I would get a physical sensation when I would feel that this was about to happen. It happened when I was a little girl, also when I was a teenager and into my 20s. And suddenly my breathing and my heart rate would slow right down. So I'd wherever I was, I'd have to sit down. And then it was as though a different consciousness moved into my body and was looking out through my eyes. However, my own consciousness was still there as a witness. And if I was, let's say, holding a spoon when it happened, because I think that happened one time, it was like a sense of bewilderment that at my own body and the spoon, the thing I was holding, I had no idea what it was, its purpose. And if someone was speaking, I could hear them, but not understand a word. And it wasn't unpleasant. In fact, when it stopped happening, I missed it. Yeah, I've never had any idea what that was about. I was hoping maybe Simon would know.
Thank you. Come closer to the camera. Just get closer. Stop there. That's good. That's good. That's good. Right. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Can you hear me? Have the sound gone? Oh,
no,
great.
I can hear you.
No problems. Right. Okay. I think we. Okay, that's good. Just look at the camera, not my face. Just look at the camera on your screen. Can you do that? That's great. I'm going to ask you some 3 questions. They're really, really easy questions. Just want you to answer them for me. You ready?
Yeah.
Good. Are you left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
What's your favorite color?
Green. But that's a tough one for me. I love all colors. I love color.
No, that's fine. That's just the answer. Numbers. What's the number that means the most to you?
7.
Good number to have. Final question, your eyes, are they blue or do they have green in them?
Sort of blue-gray. I don't think there's any green in them.
So blue-green will do. No, I was right. If it's got grey, it's because there's green in them and it's not gone through yet. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Do you have any photographs of you when you were younger, when you were a child?
I do have one around here somewhere. It kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Probably can't find it now. We don't have the time for that now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking you about this. You know, we are, you got 100 members around you, so we can't go where we need to go with this. What you've described to me is potentially what the New Age calls a walk-in. Mm-hmm. It relates to one soul leaves and enters a body. However, again, we have a lot of people around us, but what I can tell you is your childhood was quite difficult. And what I would suggest, Deb, is that when we open the books, you know, you might wish to have a more personable, private chat with me.
Okay, I will definitely do that. Thank you, Simon.
Okay. What I can tell you is that you shouldn't have any fear, because the person I'm speaking to now, the soul of the person inhabiting your body now, is the right person. It's the right way round. So the order that this has occurred in is actually good. Okay.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
But that you're not hugely connected to the human race.
Yes, thank you.
So, yeah, by all means, stick a book in and have a chat with you. All right.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Simon.
That was absolutely wonderful and very, very special. I don't know if anyone else was feeling that, but I was crying almost the whole time. That was really, really cool. Simon, very quickly, a generalized question. Who is really running the countries now? Is it who? Is it the UN?
that's I didn't expect that one. Organizations like the United Nations, like the WHO, are merely tentacles of an octopus. And we have to go beyond the human concept of, you know, all roads lead to Rome, so all roads lead to China. These are organizations that are in the physical world set up. Who is running it? Something beyond humanity, a very negative force that is part physical, part not physical. That is the enemy. That is our enemy, a form of artificial intelligence that does not have a creation from the creator as we understand it, and utilizes assets wherever they are. And occasionally, from time to time, warriors turn up to fight this, I would just call it this demon energy. And love him or hate him, President Trump is one of these beings that was destined to be the warrior that will fight this energy at this time. Hence why all the satanic forces are turning against him. So we're being too narrow if we just say it's the Cabal or it's China or it's this, that. We've got to go beyond that. It's who's pulling the strings behind them. And it's not just the reptilians. There is an unseen force higher than them that is ultimately on a power play, and the human race, as was always predicted, will see it, and a proportion of us will see through it. And the proportion of us that see through it, those are the ones that are going to the fifth dimension. Those that don't see through it, well, they've got a little bit longer. They'll just come around again. Okay. Excellent
answer, Simon. Thank you for that. Okay, 5 minutes left. We have a final question, pretty thought-provoking. Here it goes. Canada appears to have a high level of psychics, mediums, healers, grid workers, and ET experiencers, especially centered around the Great Lakes regions. The violence trigger button has been pushed and Canadians are reacting to matters on a different scale than before. Some reactions, like national pride, are more positive, yet Canadians are being provoked to act against Canadians. UFO sightings are increasing, and the membership to CC Canada has been steadily growing. A few questions. Is Canada and its light worker community a growing threat to the deep state who seem to use Canada as a testing ground for all sorts of social, psychological, and medical experiments?
Well, the person has answered their own question.
Exactly.
But I would be rude for me to stop there. Right, listen. Although it's not widely understood, there is an ongoing connection between Atlantis and the east coast of Canada. There is a connection between the energy Atlantis and the lakes.
Simon,
you will
sorry.
Find
the following question: does Canada represent an aspect of the Atlantean cataclysm that North Americans are transmuting that the Cabal wishes to prevent?
Yeah, again, the person has answered their own question. So you will find that healers who are mobile will want to move to that area. You may be very spiritual, but if you don't have any money, you can't move. But if you are mobile, you will want to try to get to that area because the frequency is higher in that area simply because of this unbreakable connection that goes through. And that is the aspect that Cabal don't like, because there's free thinking going on in that area. So I think the person knew the answer. They were just testing me. They were just testing me.
That is very, very, very fair. Thank you to Simon and Becky. Thank you to all of our members here. Thank you to CC in general. This is absolutely fantastic. We would not be here if it wasn't for the organization of CC and everyone's commitment and dedication and passion to raising the vibration of not only Canada, but the entire world. We can't do this alone. We have to do this together. Thank you so much. Be blessed. I love you all.
Well, that's why you are a coordinator. That's why I chose you through Becky. What I hope tonight is done is show you that although I'm a Brit and although I bang on about America, the question, a lot of your questions are about Canada, and I hope that I've demonstrated a good understanding because I do care about every country and I have a knowledge on every country, because CC is about every country. And, you know, I'm so grateful because there is a French speaking and there's an English speaking, you know, and Canada is important. And I will do these type of questions and answers because it's the way I get to communicate. We call it grassroots. I don't know what you guys call it, but it allows me to be with the membership. You know, I see so many people who style themselves as gurus, and they go up to their top of their mountain or their ivory floor or whatever it is, and they don't want to see anybody. They only want the big televisions or the newspapers or the magazines, and they want the big bucks. And they completely lose connection with their membership. And that's the disaster. That's not going anywhere. And so I've always made sure that I've found the time. I mean, I love all of you deeply. You're doing a wonderful job. And I just need you to remember that the end result is good. Yes, sure, it's a very difficult journey, but don't listen to people who tell you that we're finished or we're burnt out or we're destroyed or it's no hope. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. Do you think that we all came here to play this game and then fail? Of course not. We came here to see it through and to be successful. That is why you're all in CC, because you have a spiritual understanding, a spiritual determination, and you're not going to give in to some very pathetic, I just call them children. These people in government are children, and they have the brains not even of children. So let it play itself out. Keep yourself strong, and ultimately we'll just walk where we need to walk. So listen, thank you very much. Becky and I, very grateful to you. Philip, thank you to everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night, everyone. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Good
next time.
night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.